Welcome to join this UPM Plywood's short insight session regarding the upcoming European Union's Deforestation Regulation, which is also known globally as EUDR. This upcoming regulation will severely affect our businesses, our behavior, especially within our milieu and environment in forest sector. Due to the importance of this regulation, we have two niche professionals today talking about this EUDR comprehensively as a whole and within the business itself. First, we will have Sakari Suurniemi, who is our Senior Manager in UPM Global Forest Affairs team.
Before going into the details of EU deforestation regulation, I want to highlight the core principles of sustainable forestry at UPM. For decades, we've been working with the certification systems and with other organizations to create a system of traceability through third-party verification. So it means that all the wood raw material that we are using is at least FSC-controlled wood and BFC-controlled sources. Meaning that we know that it's not coming, for example, from illegally logged areas or from high conservation value areas. Then we want to set the bar even higher, so by 2030 we want to source all our wood raw material from certified sources. Today the figure is 87%, so we still have some way to go to reach that target. Then, always when we are conducting felling operations, final felling in our forests, and also the same applies for our wood sourcing, so always those areas are being regenerated. So UPM forest management and the wood sourcing that we are doing is not causing deforestation. So we have not been in the deforestation in the past, and we will not be in the deforestation business also in the future. Then the basics of EU deforestation regulation. So the objective of the regulation is to stop the EU-driven global deforestation based on the mandatory due diligence for the operators. It already entered into force last year, and now we are in the transition period of 18 months, and this transition period runs until the end of this year. Then the core idea of the EU deforestation regulation is to prohibit the placing of relevant products on the EU market or exporting them unless they meet the key criteria, which are that they are deforestation free, they have been produced in accordance with the relevant legislation of the country, and then they are covered by the due diligence system that is transmitted through the traces system that the EU Commission is currently building. In the regulation itself, there is 7 different commodities, and for us, and I assume for all of you as well, wood is the most important commodity listed. In the EU deforestation regulation, there is a lot of different terminology. I want to highlight 2 very important terms. First one being the deforestation itself. So it means the conversion of forests into agricultural use. So it is not forbidding the conversion from forest into infrastructure. So for example, utility lines, or if cities want to develop and extend. In Finland, there is still some minor conversion from forest to agricultural use happening. So at UPM, we will have legally binding agreements with the individuals and organizations from whom we are sourcing wood to ensure that the wood that we are using is not causing this sort of a conversion. Then the other element is forest degradation. So also the structural changes to forest cover are not, or certain structural changes to forest cover are not allowed. And those are specifically conversion of primary forest or naturally regenerating forest into plantation forest or other wooded land. And as in Finland, we don't have plantation forest or this other wooded land, so this is basically impossible to happen in Finland. Then the other element is conversion of primary forest into planted forest. So this is a possible scenario in Finland. The majority of primary forests already are located within the conservation areas in Finland, so they are protected, but there is still some areas, still some primary forests that are outside of the conservation areas. So eventually, in Finland, we will have a clear criteria for the primary forest, and those will be mapped, and we will have that information into our system, so it will make easy for us to avoid those areas, but we will not have that by the end of the year. So in the now before we have that information there in the system, we have to manage this through strict requirements for our wood sourcing to ensure that we are not getting any wood from these primary forests to our mills. One of the most important articles of the regulation is the Article 9, which covers the requirements for information gathering. A lot of the information that is mentioned in Article 9 is something that already is being gathered and transmitted through the value chain. But then there is some additional items that have not been gathered in the past. Maybe the most significant being the geolocations. So for example, at UPM, when we are placing the raw wood first time in the market, we have to gather the geolocation, which we already have been gathering in the past, but we haven't been transmitting that information into external systems. So now this will happen. So once we create the first due diligence system of the value chain, we will provide this geolocation as a part of the due diligence statement. Then there's also requirements to gather adequately conclusive and verifiable information to ensure that products are deforestation free and that they have been produced in accordance with the local legislation. All the countries globally will be categorized in 3 different categories. So they will be low, medium, and high risk categories. The risk level for all the countries currently is still medium and will be medium probably still by the end of the year when the transition period is over. But eventually when the consultants have done their risk assessment, there will be this categorization. And the benefit of that classification is that if country where you are operating and if the country, or more importantly, if the country from where you are using raw material is in the low risk basket, then you have you can use the simplified due diligence procedure, meaning you have to still gather the information as defined in the Article 9, but you don't have to conduct the risk assessment and risk mitigation processes. So the due diligence process has 3 main elements. So those are the information gathering according to the Article 9 of the regulation. Then, based on the information you have gathered, if you are not using material from a low-risk country, you have to conduct a risk assessment, and then based on the results of the risk assessment, you have to decide whether risk mitigation is needed. Then once you have completed your due diligence process, you are able to submit due diligence statement for the EU TRACES system. In the TRACES system, there is different roles depending in which and where you are located in the value chain, also partially depending on what kind of company you are, meaning how many employees you have and how much turnover you have. The first statement in the value chain, so when the raw wood is placed on the market, the original statement will be done with the geolocations from the forest. So really identifying the coordinates for the location of harvest. Once this due diligence statement is being approved by the system, we will receive a corresponding reference number and verification number. Then those reference numbers and verification numbers will be communicated for our customers, and based on that information, they can use those numbers once they are creating their own due diligence statements for their own finished goods.
Thank you, Sakari. As we heard, this is a rather complicated and massive issue to tackle, but it also gives us proper business opportunities. Next chapter will be by Sanna Kontinen, our environmental manager from UPM Plywood side, and she will take a little bit deeper touch into our business environment within the plywood sector. Also related to our partners and our operations, our full-on environment where we work with.
I will first introduce you some definitions of the EU Deforestation Regulation in case you are not yet familiar with the regulation. And it also helps you to define what are the roles and responsibilities in your company. Relevant products are products that are listed in Regulation Annex 1, and I strongly suggest that you go through that annex and check whether your products are in the scope of the regulation. Operator is a company that first places the product into market. So imports to EU area, places in EU area, or exports the products from EU area. Operator is also a company that processes relevant products that are already in the EU market, but they process the product so that the CN code, so the customs code, change. And these CN codes can also be found in the relevant products list. For example, in our case, we are an operator because we are processing round wood into plywood. So CN code change in that sense. Then there is a trader, and it is a company that places products to market without changing CN code. So, for example, a distributor can be seen as a trader. Operators and traders need to provide due diligence statement, so DDS, to EU information system that is called TRACES, before they are entering the product into EU market or exporting from EU market. And this is checked in the customs clearance. The operator who first time places the product to EU market is the operator who needs to include the country of production and also the geolocation of the product in their due diligence statement. TRACES system provide as an exchange for the DDS an equivalent reference number and verification number for the operator. And next operators or traders in the chain, they can refer to the previous DDS where the geolocations were included by using these reference numbers and verification numbers they get from their supplier. Here I have a chart of UPM Plywood's EUDR process. First, in the left-hand side, we have the supplier of relevant commodities. The main raw material is wood, but we have also identified other materials like fiber-based coatings that we are using in our production, which are in the scope of EUDR. And these suppliers are the first operators in the chain. So they are doing the first due diligence statement, and they are including the geolocations in their DDS. And they are passing it to the TRACES system, and as an exchange, getting the reference number and verification number from the system. Then they are passing those reference and verification numbers for us, and we are gathering them all and making one due diligence statement per day. Our wood yard maximum circulation time is 30 days, so we are including all the reference numbers that we have received during that last 30 days in our daily due diligence statement. For the coatings, the time frame is a bit different. It's a half a year, but again, the same system applies so that we are using the half year's reference numbers that we are getting into the mill and including them into the daily DDS. And we are passing the DDS to TRACES and getting again the reference and verification numbers from the TRACES. Then we are passing the numbers along the chain to our customers via invoice. So customer will get the information, the reference number and verification at latest the same time with the goods they are receiving from us. And customers, whether they are operators or traders, they are also obligated to make due diligence statement into the TRACES when they are again selling the product forward and getting the reference number and then sending that to their customers. More information can be found in EU's EUDR page, where you can, for example, find the interpretation guidelines and Q&A documents.
We just heard two different approaches from UPM Corporation. We had Sakari talking about the corporation level, about EUDR compliance within UPM. followed by Sanna's thoughts and insights into UPM Plywood's business environment and our opportunities within. The main thing to remember in this case is that we are not alone in this topic. It's a massive change in the market, it's a massive change in our environment, and we are all following the regulations and the guidelines as we speak. We are here to help you guys and vice versa. For further information, you can always reach us via email. You can find the recent topics on our web pages, and feel free to approach us at any given time. Thank you for joining this event and hope to see you soon.